Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a great guest on. And the reason why I say this guest is great is because, she lives in a world where, she has her skill set, but part of her skill set is being able to understand the skill sets of others and helping them connect with the right opportunities. And I think that is a phenomenal thing when you work in a field where your job is to help people connect the dots between what they know, what they do, and how they can help others solve problems. So I want to welcome to the show, Teresa Muncer Shimp. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Terrell. Thank you for inviting me. Very excited today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we jump into the details of your business in the talent space, can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to, this type of business?
Sure. 25 years ago, Terrell, I started in the staffing industry, which, nobody goes to school for the staffing industry. And I fell into it because I was interviewing for another role. I went down the hallway and a individual that I had known, I ran into in the hallway after this interview. And she said, "You need to come and talk with this woman, Michelle. She is in charge of a staffing company, and I think you should go in and meet with her. I think the two of you would get along." I actually walked in the door, got a meeting with her. 7 interviews later, I was working at a company called Robert Half International. And it was the best, I think, experience to really start to understand total talent management, which is what it is called today, but the staffing industry, and helping others with their careers. And I started in the accounting world, very similar to yourself, Terrell,
Mhm.
placing accounting and financial professionals, and have continued to do that to this day. About 4 years ago, circumstances with my son and his health caused me to kind of look at corporate. Should I stay in corporate, keep working the 70-hour weeks, traveling and juggling, trying to help with a very rare autoimmune disease and helping him get through it? And so I said, okay, something's going to break, and I don't want it to be my family. I don't want it to be my health. I don't want it to be my friendships, and I didn't want it to be my spirit. And so I basically said, okay, my dad was an entrepreneur, had a business. When I was in college, I worked for him. It was a software business, kind of, very involved in working with clients. So I got involved with implementations and working with clients. And I think I had the bug a long time ago, but corporate seemed to be the right path at the time. New doors opened. And when I told individuals that I was leaving the company that I had worked with for 13 years prior to starting Talent by Design, all of a sudden people are like, "Teresa, I want your help. Teresa, I need you here." And then all of a sudden, I started having clients without a company. And I said, okay, I need to have a mission or a purpose. So I decided I needed a purpose. And the purpose was to always look at how I can help others, how I can help other women and minority professional businesses, help them move their careers, move their companies. So I started bringing services in that were not just executive search, not just payrolling, not just bringing in HR consulting, but started looking at people, process, and technologies all in HR, all around total talent management, so that when economic challenges happen, since I've been through 3 recessions now, because I'm going to call the COVID time that we've been dealing with a little bit of a recession, not a little bit, a big recession compared to where we've lost jobs in 2008. So I built a business around the ability to pivot, where when people needed to start laying off individuals, or they needed to look at processes, or they needed to bring new digital technology into their supply chain, in their accounting and finance for their P2P processes, I could start building relationships with other entrepreneur companies to bring those services to clients. So I work as this independent contractor business, but I bring services in and still are involved with clients, but I bring the best experts in to each of those scenarios when I'm working with a client. So that's how I've built it. It's very pivotal. It's very pivotal. I'm sorry, I'm like losing my speech. I'm having COVID brain right now. So anyway, it's been a journey and it's constantly changing. And so I think, Terrell, two tips that I have for people with building a business: you're always going to have a roller coaster. And in it, you think that you have things under control, and then something else is going to change, or this rule and regulation is going to change. And you know that with accounting, there's constantly change. There's things that you have to look at as an entrepreneur. So, two tips that I always say to people when they are building a business or looking at it: first off, make sure in your gut it's the right time. And you'll know because something is going to happen, and it's going to be your health, or it's going to be something that's starting to break. And my feelings are with this is that you always can open another door to something that's going to make you happy. And so with people, the tips are always be open to change, and that your business model every year, sit down, do some winter planning, look at how is it really functioning, what's working, what's not, and how can you take it to another level. So I'm not great at status quo. So that's this year of being more involved out in front of the camera, being more vocal with social media out there, and being more vocal. I've been very behind the scenes in pushing clients and pushing other entrepreneurs behind the scenes, but this is the year for me to have a little more of a voice out there. So that's one change that I'm doing that's a little bit different in my business and how to keep moving things forward. And it sounds very simple, but when you're still building a business, you just don't want to be out there forward without a lot of research behind it and a lot of, I think it's important to talk about what didn't work with people and be honest about it, and talk about how you were able to take those disappointments or challenges and turn them forward. And sometimes it's not about taking from others, it's about giving more, and more will come back.
Mhm.
And it truly happens
And
that way.
I'll say, speaking of that, I mean, one question I wanted to ask, I mean, when you think about, talent management, I guess you say the overall talent management of a company, because having the right people in the right place doing the right type of work is even more critical today for companies than they've probably realized in the past. When you're working with companies, how does that relationship usually work with you finding out, like, hey, what do you need, and then how can I help you? Like, how does that usually work for a lot of the companies that you work with?
So I think it starts with, it's really a discovery, right? Of what the individual that I'm working with, what is their values, what's important to them. And it's really, it's not anything other than really having a relationship. And there's not secret sauce. It's about being genuine, authentic with people, real. It is very rare, Terrell, that when I'm working with a client that I don't really get to understand who they are and what's important to them. And then we take into the company goals and perspectives that way into it, the other team members that are involved in it. And it is very much a team collaboration. It is not myself saying this is what you need to do. It's about working through a discovery with a client of really what path do they want to build and what map do they want to build for that. And it's a holistic approach. And then once that, the people, so we've got the right people in place, and then we've put the right process in place, then we have to start looking at what's the right technology that is going to complement that, because technology can do two things. It can, you know, bring together all of the data so that you can tell a story, so you can see results, so that you can figure out where financially you need to impact the business, what you have to do. And that goes back to then who do you need to hire people to do that? Because technology isn't going to replace individuals. We still need strategic thinkers. And especially with COVID, we need more intelligence and more emotional intelligence from our leaders than we have ever had or needed with the way we are conducting business and the change that is going through not only the United States, but globally.
Awesome. So now, as you think about, your business with, everything that's gone on with, from your background to, the pivots and the changes that you've had to make in your business, and also you're having to change as a result of the changes going on in your clients, and you mentioned about becoming, more on the front end of talking, being a voice for the business more, what other avenues have you used, or I guess what are some of the ways that you've been able to come more front facing and be more vocal about your business?
Well, I think one thing that I have done, and it's something that's going to be coming up in the next 6 months, is I actually have been working on a book that is really about teachable moments and lessons learned, but it's actually more of a comedy, of short stories of things that have happened. Because I think right now, comedy and humor with what's going on with COVID is a way to share these, and you'll see it. Netflix is trying to do that with a lot of the personal stories. You're seeing it with the different medias, right? But I think that people need to get away from social media sometimes and get away from and pick up a good book and learn some things, but also be able to laugh and enjoy life a little bit away from everybody being in front of a screen, which is a little bit of a dichotomy, since I said at the beginning, I want to be more socially involved, more out there in the media. But I also know that it is so important to protect what you choose to do, and that you also have to always be a lifelong learner and learn through others. There's not one day that goes by that I don't learn something from others, or pick up something, or spend an hour a day kind of reading different insights and how other businesses are doing or how other people are doing it, so that I can pick those tips up and learn. So that's one other thing that I wanted to share from an entrepreneur. Not only do you want to change your business model every year and be open to it, change. But then the second part of it is surround yourself with a council of advisors that are great in their areas where you're not great. So I'm not the most fantastic accountant, believe it or not. Not what I do, right? So I have a phenomenal accountant who shares with me things that I need to do and phases I need to go through, very similar to yourself, Terrell. And there are things that I wouldn't think of or know had he not shared that information with me from a financial perspective. Um, there's people who are great in the legal area. So when you're trying to patent or get involved in certain things, making sure that I'm not doing things that are not the right thing. And with COVID, it's been very important, especially since I give HR advice and employer relations, that I am up on all of that knowledge with COVID-19 rules and regulations. And it's not just this state, it's other states, and it's other countries. So just understanding those rules and regulations. So I rely on counsel on people who also are in that space. And then, of course, I hire people that can give me advice and tell me what I need to do better. So I have a coach that helps me at times. So not only do I do coaching, but I bring in a coach to give me where do I need to continue to build the business. So I think it's really important to surround yourself. And it's almost like back when we had kings and queens, they had a council of people that they went to. It's very important. You don't do entrepreneurship in a box. you have to think outside of it, as you said earlier.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And I would say, Teresa, thank you so much for coming on the interview and sharing your insights and wisdom. But before we wrap up, one of the things that I wanted to ask about is, well, actually a couple of things. First is the book. Where can people keep an eye out to see, hey, you mentioned about this great book that's going to blend comedy with lessons learned. Like, how can people stay up to date on knowing when the book is ready and when they can jump in and buy their copy?
Well, we're going to start sending out blog information, so from Talent by Design, but we'll also be having it out on LinkedIn, but it's going to be something that, will be available on Amazon. So we will have it prepared and ready there. So we will keep you posted, and I will definitely have our PR team reach out and keep you posted as well.
Awesome. And the other thing is, if someone's looking to do business with Talent by Design, how do they get in touch with you guys and where can they find you online?
So it's www Talent by Design, but it's spelled DEZIGN instead of when you think of design, specifically because my son's name's Zachary and I wanted to have him involved. And the reason I started this business was to be able to spend more time with him. So that's why it's Talent by Design. So that's the best way to reach me. But also I'm on LinkedIn and I'm out there on Facebook. So you can reach me. You can Teresa Muncer .shimp, and you can reach me out there.
Awesome. Well, Teresa, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on to hear your story, as well as to the opportunity to be able to share it with the audience as you're moving more to, like I said, getting out there, sharing the story of what you're doing, the impact that your business is having for your clients, as well as, just the environment around you, and really looking forward to your book that's coming out. So thank you so much for coming on, Teresa. Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.